So by now you would have used MyCrop to diagnose what pest or diseases may be present in your crop. The next thing you need to know is whether it is worth treating and which treatment option or strategy is most economic for you. To help you calculate this, the MyEconomic tool has been developed. For demonstration purposes, let's assume you have stripe rust. Firstly, you enter the crop. We have a wheat crop. Secondly, the expected yield. Let's say a 2.5 tonne crop. Our minimum yield this year could be 1.5 tonnes, and our maximum yield could be 3.5 tonnes per hectare. Our expected farm gate price, that is your price less all freight and storage costs, which is around $250 a tonne. You next go down and input potential yield loss should you not treat your crop for the stripe rust. We estimate the yield loss if we do not treat the rust would be in the range of 20% to 70%. Now we look at our treatment options, which could also be a strategy. Options could include the application rate, how many times you apply it, timing, whether you use aerial spray or boom spray, and so on. A whole range of options and scenarios can be put into this tool. In our example, we're going to compare a cheaper chemical, treatment A, to a more expensive but more effective chemical, treatment B. We need to enter possible ranges of yield loss for each treatment option. Even if both treatments could be 100% effective, we are still going to have track damage due to the boom spray, which will incur a yield loss of around 4% for our farm. We estimate that if treatment A doesn't work as effectively as desired, yield loss could be up to 35%. Now we enter the cost of treatment, which is the cost of the chemical plus labour and all application costs. In this case, we have worked it out to be $30 per hectare. Now we input for treatment B. Again, we have the minimum track damage of 4% yield loss, but this treatment is more effective and the maximum yield loss possible is 15%. However, this treatment is more expensive at $50 per hectare. Once you have entered in this data, you simply click Calculate to get the result. Here are the results presented in a table comparing two treatment options to not treating the stripe rust, titled here as No Control. Here is the expected net income on average for each scenario. The expected net benefit is simply the difference between expected net income if you treat with option A versus not treating it. Then it measures the expected time that each scenario is the best option, and in this case, option B has a better expected net income than the other two options 99% of the time. Then we look at the return on investment, which is important to consider, particularly if funds are scarce. In this case, treatment A has a much higher return on investment than treatment B. When you compare between options, you should always weigh up the return on investment against the expected net benefit. This is because funds that could be saved using the cheaper option, which may be redeployed in other parts of the farm business where higher returns on investment are achievable. And finally, we show here the probability of breaking even. This says that 100% of the time option A and option B will have a positive effect on net income. The results are shown in graphical form. Firstly, we have the cumulative distribution function, which shows the probability level associated with net incomes being greater than or less than a certain value. For example, in 25% of the time, the expected net income will be $286 per hectare or less for no control versus $409 per hectare for treatment option A or $445 per hectare for treatment option B. This pie chart simply shows the percentage of time each treatment option is the best outcome. This shows that option A was the best outcome in terms of expected net income 1% of the time. In this table, you can see the assumptions that we used in generating this result. We can then go back and change these assumptions to see how sensitive the result is by simply clicking Recalculate here to adjust values. There are often other things to consider when making the decision on the treatment option, not just the simple economics shown here today. These considerations can be pre- and post-crop, as well as in-crop, and can be found by selecting your constraint on the drop box below here. We have stripe rust, so we simply select stripe rust here to see considerations we need to make when assessing whether to treat. To see these in further detail, you can simply click here. We hope this tool will assist you to calculate the economic impact of various treatment options for numerous constraints in your crop.